So there's a video that came out a very, very long time ago from many kudos, and it's called Yu-Gi-Oh's Many Scandals. And the #1 scandal was banning me from Yu-Gi-Oh! For like 5 trillion years. I do want to give this a watch. I want to see what sort of f***ed up Konami was doing. I want to see what sort of Konami was cooking.
Welcome to Many Scandals, the series where we dive into the scandals, drama, and interesting stories.
Isn't me, or does he kind of look like King Scarlet? Is this what he does in his free time? He just runs a channel with like 1 trillion subscribers.
The world's hobbies, niches, and interests. In the early 2000s, kids who yearned for an edgier, more mature version of Pokemon found themselves turning to Digimon, Newgrounds parodies where Pikachu smokes weed.
What the fuck?
And of course,
Smoke the
YuGiOh.
weed.
Based on the Japanese manga of the same name, YuGiOh has since special summoned a multimedia empire, featuring multiple spin-off manga, anime series, and the reason you're probably here, well, besides the need to distract yourself from your own mortality, the trading card game. Initially designed to give school bullies something new to steal, the trading card game has since gone to stand alongside titans such as...
Speaking of getting cards stolen, when I was a kid, I used to attend a thing called Kumon. Now, if you're not Asian, you have no idea what this is. But if you are Asian, you probably just got like flashbanged to like middle school. I remember there was like a ring of Yu-Gi-Oh players, of like little shitty fucking kids. I was one of those kids, by the way. I was 11. For 1 minute, I went to use the bathroom and I left my Yu-Gi-Oh deck inside my Kumon bag. And when I came back and had to go home, my Stardust Dragon and my Red Dragon Archfiend were stolen. Like, that was the reason like I just never played Yu-Gi-Oh like middle school or high school. Kumon, alright.
Magic the Gathering and the Pokemon TCG. But this success has activated more than a few trap cards. It's time
Activated more than a few trap cards.
to discuss Yu-Gi-Oh scandals and drama.
Damn! This shit goes hard. I take back the Reddit comment.
England has its football riots, America has people performing WWE moves over a new toaster oven on Black Friday. But how do you get the normally orderly and respectful Japanese people to kick up a fuss? Why, you withhold a children's card game from them, of course.
Hell
Long before
yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh sailed the 7 seas and made its way to the West, it was taking Japan by storm. In 1999, Konami scheduled the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Legend Tournament to be held at the Tokyo Dome, a stadium that regularly hosts sporting events, concerts, and apparently card game tournaments. After inviting the players who would be competing in the tournament, Konami opened up the invitation to anyone who had purchased that week's Shonen Jump magazine, the popular publication which printed the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga. While I'm sure just the mere idea of a stadium full of men with pit stains playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Would have drawn a massive crowd on its own, Konami decided to seal the deal by announcing that they would be selling a premium pack of cards that would be unobtainable anywhere else. For this to really make sense, I first need to explain the environment that Yu-Gi-Oh! Was in at the time. Probably as a way to squeeze a quick buck out of the game they probably thought was in the middle of its 15 seconds of fame, Konami would often bundle powerful promo cards with Yu-Gi-Oh! Brand video games, guidebooks, and ride-on lawnmowers, all of which costed significantly more than your standard pack of cards.
Boy smell generator? Mods, ban Sprambo.
Keep in mind, all of these promo cards were completely tournament legal, meaning anyone looking to get a competitive edge would either have to buy these products exclusively for the promos or buy them off someone who did. Even that might not be enough, however, as some of the promo cards were randomized on top of it all, meaning you could shell out for a full-priced video game only to get the Yu-Gi-Oh! Equivalent of a stick of gum and 2 stray pubes. The power level of these promo cards was...
I sure love OTS packs. I sure love how even just your attendance bonus is literally left up to RNG. I sure love Yu-Gi-Oh!
So much higher than the normally available ones that the early meta of the game revolved around a deck type called Good Stuff, which was literally just a hodgepodge of whatever cards had the highest numbers on them with no real strategy, putting the pros on the same level as the 10-year-olds playing during recess. So the idea of showing up to a tournament that you weren't even competing in just to nab an exclusive pack of cards that might give you a competitive edge wasn't as ridiculous as that might sound today. But even still, Konami severely underestimated just how enticing this was.
It really was kind of like early Yu-Gi-Oh! Really was kind of just a gotcha game. Like back then, there was no like combo deck. There was no like, you know, control deck or like resource game. It really was just like an era of just like the most fucked up power spells of all time. Like if you could activate a card back then, 9 out of like 10 times you just did it. Like you would just fucking flip your Forceful Sentry, you would just activate your Painful Choice. Yeah, you just like activate a card whenever you fucking could. So I kind of do relate and get the sentiment where early Yu-Gi-Oh was like way more unscaled, and the idea that like the gap between like pro players and like little fucking kids was way less definitive than it is like, you know, right now, obviously, because we have way more like deck diversity and combo lines and nuances, where like back then it's literally just maybe I hold on to this torrential tribute or trap hole for something.
Day rolls around, and the Tokyo Dome, a venue used to hosting the likes of Michael Jackson, was considerably unprepared for the 55,000 Yu-Gi-Oh players who descended upon the stadium. Of these 55,
y'all remember when we were saying like, yeah, YCS Pasadena or like YCS LA or like YCS like Germany was like the most populated YCS, or like YCS Long Beach, which had like 3,000 people. We need a 55,000 person YCS that's just like 50 rounds. It's not about who can win the most matches. It's about who's still alive after all of it.
Only 45,000 made it in before the stadium reached its capacity, with the other 10,000 left to ponder the heart of the cards outside. Those who made it inside didn't fare much better, as the vendor for the premium booster was considerably understocked for the amount of attendees. No. You didn't hear incorrectly either. I said vendor, not vendors. And the poor stall quickly found itself overrun by a crowd of people whose patience was wearing thinner by the minute. Unsure of how best to handle the mounting tensions, organisers postponed the sale of the cards by a few hours before deciding to cancel the sale of the packs altogether. Having waited in line for hours on a hot summer's day, only to suffer from a case of Blue Bull's White Dragon, the crowd began to become belligerent, shouting at the staff and refusing to leave. Riot police were called in to duel the players, and 2 people were taken to the hospital while others were treated with minor injuries. The tournament, aka the
police
whole reason this thing was even happening,
chest.
didn't make it past the second qualifying round before organisers decided to can it due to the commotion. Konami later tried to make amends for the people who showed up wanting a premium pack and set up a clunky mail order system that required you to submit proof you had attended on the day, either in the form of tickets or hospital gowns.
Dude, the most insane shit about that is the fact that like we used to only be able to order shit through mail. That was like the most insane shit of all time. The fact that we had to go through like magazines and put in like mail orders and wait like 4 to 6 weeks just to get anything of semblance, as well as have to pay like god awful shipping fees. Like thank god we had like the internet, and like in the future maybe we'll have like fucking teleportation for like literal instant delivery. I cannot imagine being someone back then and having to wait like 2 months just to get a fucking skull redbird, you know what I mean? 5-head?
Now, while most of these scandals are centered around the card game itself, it'd be remiss of me to not mention the reason I'm sure any of you even know what Yu-Gi-Oh is in the first place. The anime. Having learnt from the 20-minute commercials of the 80s, such as Transformers and G.I. Joe Mama, Yu-Gi-Oh hoped to one-up its predecessors by adding in the addictive factor of gambling and advertising kits trading card booster packs. While content to sell the dopamine hit of proto-loot boxes to the impressionable youth, 4Kids, the company behind the Western localization of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, were much more conservative when it came to the show's risque content.
Titties.
The name 4Kids is
I want my fucking titties, 4Kids!
Infamous amongst anime fans, second only to Sunlight and Talking to Girls Over 18. In order to localize their shows from Japan, 4Kids took a slapdash approach that involved removing any realistic violence, with punches thrown by characters edited and redubbed to just be a light shove, as well as the complete removal of guns, which gave us the infamous threatening point scene. While removing guns from a show for American audiences is like removing giant deadly spiders from a show for Australian audiences, it does make some small sense that the prevalence of firearms in American households might have made it more likely for kids to recreate these scenes compared to their lead-starved Japanese equivalents. 4Kids was also notorious for its removal of anything remotely sexual. Although depending on who you ask, some agree that maybe Japan
This is the worst timeline.
is a bit hard. No pun intended. A significant number of female character designs were altered to have less revealing clothing, show less cleavage, and in some cases, flat out reduction of the bust size of some of their women. In the name of fairness, they also applied the same treatment to some
They stole my cock! They stole my cock, bro!
of the male characters, covering up excessive exposed skin, although their bust size appears unchanged. While you could argue that these changes were just made to appease the stuffy TV networks that 4Kids was shopping the show around to, they also found their way into the real-life card game published by Upper Deck and Konami, and a significant number of cards that were never in the show.
Oh my
also
god,
found
they fucking turbo changed this art. At first I thought like they just put like the latex suit over it, but like no, they fucking changed everything.
themselves censored. Finally, any and all references to religion or the occult were replaced with decidedly more secular versions. Even generic terms like hell or faith used in the names of monsters or attacks. One of Yugi's most famous cards, the Dark Magician, was actually named the Black Magician in Japanese, but 4Kids deemed the occult connotation of black magic to be offensive to Western sensibilities. Though, given what we've seen in other mini-scandals videos, changing this probably wasn't the dumbest idea. This aversion to religion and violence also saw the creation of one of Yu-Gi-Oh's iconic concepts, the Shadow Realm. Death is a common occurrence in the Japanese version of the show, but 4Kids felt that American children were already reminded of their own mortality whenever they heard someone play pumped up kicks at school, and invented the Shadow Realm as a cheeky way around this.
The funny thing is literally the other day, I almost went to campus because I had to like pick something up for my club. I was like, you know what, I'm just get someone else to do it. And like 1 hour later, I got a notification on my phone, and it was for a notification of an active armed robbery that was happening at the bookstore. And I was like, god damn, good thing I didn't fucking show up today.
Japanese version, they were sent to the Shadow Realm in the Western one, which is described as a hell-like realm of perpetual suffering, which is somehow better than just saying they died. This resulted in some ridiculous scenarios, such as the duel that takes place atop the skyscraper in Domino City, where panels of glass were rigged to explode should the player standing on them lose the game. In the Japanese dub, they would simply fall to their deaths, but in the English dub, they would fall into portals to the Shadow Realm? Makes you wonder why they spent all that time and money to reanimate the scenes with the guns when they could have just had the characters say they were shooting Shadow Realm bullets. Laws are the only thing that separates man from beast.
Wacky
and one
rules.
look at Yu-Gi-Oh's official ruling will prove just how fine that line really is.
Oh, please talk about the stinking.
In my Magic the Gathering video, I
Please talk about how Yu-Gi-Oh players have to shower.
into the smell jokes a little bit too much, but I can assure you these all came from a place of sincerity. Namely, I've played against some people who smell god-awful. A lack of personal hygiene is apparently consistent amongst people who collect small cardboard rectangles, but Yu-Gi-Oh decided to step it up by officially ruling it illegal to smell like roast beef. In an update to the official tournament rules from April 2019, the policy reads, "You are expected to be clean when you enter a tournament. Persons who neglect self-care to the point that they are negatively impacting the tournament may be asked to correct the issue in order to continue in the event."
I remember at my old locals, there was this one guy. I don't want to name names because I forgot his name, but he, every fucking week, I don't know how, but he smelled like dog shit. We would be like, hey man, can you please like wash up in the restroom? Can you please like go to like the Target like a block away and get like some deodorant or like do something? But like right now you just smell so god awful. Like, oh my god, I had to draw a diagram for this. So here was like a diagram of the store, and we would have like this big play area, and then there would be like a divider. Here would be like the front desk where we would like sell shit to people, and here was like the front door or whatever. The fact that like we could literally smell him through the divider was insane. It got to a point where we had to actually kick him out. It felt really bad, but I mean, like, what could you do? Like, the dude got super fucking pissy. I was like, bro, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm showering, I'm using like deodorant, and we're just like, bro, like, you're saying all these things, but like the math ain't mathin'.
Honestly, this is a pretty based and soap-pilled ruling, essentially giving judges the ability to write someone up should they smell like a Smash Bros tournament in a durian farm. Given how competitive some of these players can get, I wouldn't be surprised if at least one fucking troglodyte aimed to smell as bad as possible in order to throw their opponent off and give themselves the edge. After all, sitting across from someone with a repugnant odour is the nasal equivalent of someone blasting an air horn in your ear, and trying to concentrate on a complicated card game on top of that? I mean, that takes talent. Hygiene was once again the focal point of a ruling around the unique promo card named YuGiOh Friendship. This spell has the effect where you offer your opponent a handshake,
legendary
and if they
handshake
accept,
rule.
each player's
Stick
life
to the
points
hand.
become half
You
the
will
combined
shake it.
life points of both players. You can also reveal the Unity card from your hand in order to force your opponent to agree to the handshake. Now, take one trip to a public bathroom and count how many dudes go from the pisser directly to the door without washing their hands to see why they had to change the ruling on this card.
Chat, I'ma say it. If you don't wash your hands, you're a fucking villain. I remember I saw this one statistic this one time where it was like throughout your whole body, the place with the most bacteria is your hand. It's literally more disgusting, like scientifically, to eat with your hands than it is to eat with your fucking asshole.
Except don't really, because that'd be kind of weird. The current ruling on YuGiOh Friendship states that you don't have to physically shake your opponent's hand, just consent to the idea of a handshake, which is weirdly philosophical. This ruling happened years before the pandemic, and while YuGiOh Friendship isn't a card that sees a ton of tournament play, it's still one of the few rulings I can think of that stop you from reducing your actual life points to 0. If you thought my Kiwi accent talking about cutting a deck in my Magic the Gathering video sounded suspicious, now I get to talk about a guy with a really long deck instead. You'd think most card games would have some manner of maximum deck size, right? Magic the Gathering requires you to be able to shuffle your deck unassisted, Pokemon's players can't count above 10, but for a good chunk of Yu-Gi-Oh's life, there was no rules about how long your deck can be, staunchly defying the notion that Germans don't have a sense of humour. Two of our lederhosing loving lads entered a deck in the 2007
Fedoras
Yu-Gi-Oh! German
on.
Nationals in Hanover, Germany. That was, drumroll please, 2,222 cards. The deck was piloted by Mike Schway on the right, with the 1.2 meter acrylic deck box built by his friend Tobias Hayner on the left. Mike was an official Yu-Gi-Oh! Judge, which explains how he knew this whole thing would be tournament legal, but doesn't really explain why anyone would bother going through this whole ordeal. Some people theorized it was because of his status as a judge that he saw the lack of a maximum deck size as a flaw in the game's design that needed to be highlighted. But according to the man himself, it was all just for the meme. On Mega Capital G's video about Mike's massive throbbing deck, Mike commented that the target was to get a smile to other people, and we reached that target. Mike supposedly filled it with as many cards as possible that would either let him shuffle his deck or find needles in a haystack. So, cards in his deck, which would then need to be shuffled. According to him, one game had him playing Green Gadget, a card which has you search your deck for the corresponding Red Gadget card before shuffling your deck. As you can imagine, shuffling a deck of this size is somewhat of a logistical nightmare, even with this German engineered stand, and he was handed a game loss for taking too long to shuffle after playing Green Gadget. Mike even named this deck Mission Impossible, as mission is the German word for shuffling, meaning the deck was named Shuffling Impossible in English, which is brilliant, frankly. Seeing that this deck would most likely continue to live up to its name, Mike was given a disqualification in his second game, and the 2,222 card deck was retired for good. A couple of years later, Konami made the decision to finally implement a maximum deck size,
a couple years
pulling
later,
the number down from infinity to a relatively conservative 60. While the timing of this has placed some doubts over whether or not Mike's stunt had any real influence over the situation, the story is much better if we say he did. So I'm just going to lie and say that he was the exact reason for this change. What are you going to do?
I'm just
Prove
gonna
me
lie.
wrong?
Giga Chad. Goated video. Please let me know if you guys want to watch more fucking scandal videos. But yeah, that was a good video. I enjoyed that one a lot.